That was a little different than what I expected. Anyway, I'm Todd, and I've been at the Media Lab for all of those 30 years, making pretty unusual music. So during this process of putting together today's event, Nicholas asked me if I might be interested in making some music to celebrate the 30th. So I thought about it and thought about the fact that music kind of anti-intuitively has been one of the central features of the lab for all these years. And the reason I came to the lab, maybe the number one reason, was to be around Marvin Minsky, who's been one of my heroes all these years, and as a lot of you know, is one of the deepest thinkers about music in the world, and is not afraid to ask questions about why music exists and what it's for that most other people aren't. So being around Marvin, being around Nicholas, who invented this incredible lab and nurtured it all these years, and being around all of you, how it's allowed us to think of music in really different ways and to do things like make brain operas and make hypercellos for Yo-Yo Ma and make collaborative symphonies for entire cities, things that not only could we literally not have done anywhere else, but when I was thinking about it, I think they're really ideas that we would not actually have thought about if we were anywhere else. So music, we're so grateful to have been able to make music all these years at the lab. So Nicholas said, make a little music. And so I said, how little exactly? And so Nicholas said, well, it's the 30th anniversary. Why don't you do something that with 30, 30 themes. So I said, well, maybe 3 minutes or 3. He said, how about a 30-second opera? So I would do anything for Nicholas, and so I said, okay. And then we negotiated, and we came up with the idea of 3 30-second pieces, which is what we're going to play for you. We'll play one before the break, and then we'll play the other 2 right after the break. And so what I thought would be fun, what we're going to play for you, so I decided, we've got 30 years, 30 seconds of music, and so what we did is I contacted 30 of our students from our group, from the Opera of the Future group, over the entire 30 years. And I wrote to them and said, could each of you make a 30-second composition, something that says something important about you, and if possible, something that says something about the time when you were at the lab. And bless their hearts, a lot of them are here actually, we got 30 yeses. So we got 30-second compositions, and my proposition was to make a first piece, which is a 1-second sliver of each of them. It's awesome, you're gonna hear it in a second. And then a second piece, which is a kind of juxtaposition, and a third piece, which is a kind of synthesis of what these pieces, these 30-second visions, as a 30-second piece feel like. And the last twist on the idea is that I asked all of my current students in the group if they would be interested to work with me to be the composers to take these sounds and turn them into these pieces. And bless their hearts, like all these amazing Media Lab students, they did most of the work. They did an incredible job in listening to all these pieces and fitting them together. So here's the first piece. We're going to listen to the 30 sounds, 1 second each. You'll see the name of each composer, and you'll also see the years that they were at the Media Lab. So here's part 1.
Far too large for what?
Marvin.
So your job over lunch, because it is now in fact lunchtime, is to remember every single one of those sounds. Because the more that you remember them, the more you'll enjoy the pieces afterwards. So it's the lunch break. Lunch will be out in the tent. Enjoy yourselves. We'll be back here at 2 p.m. sharp. See ya. Welcome back from lunch, everybody. And as promised, we now have 2 more 30-second compositions. I talked to a lot of you during lunch, and remarkable how many people remembered every single one of those sounds and sang them back. And even more remarkable, although not too surprising, given this group, I think I got maybe 100 or 200 strategies about how we should compose these fragments. So we didn't have time to take all of your suggestions, but here we go. So the second phase, this is the kind of intermediary composition. The question was, we have these 30 fantastic sounds. They're all 30 seconds or shorter. How do we get to know them? How do we decide how they fit together? So in typical Media Lab fashion, 2 PhD students in my group, Charles Holdbrow and Akito Van Troyer, each made a kind of opposite interface for exploring those sounds. Charles made an interface that uses dials to go through thousands of sounds at points where they're interesting and to compare them, to hear their differences. And Akito made a program that allows you to dial through the sounds and pull out their similarities. And so as a group, we rehearsed with these. We actually had 6 of these dials, and that's how we got to know the sounds. And so the second piece is our performance, our 30-second performance of learning and juxtaposing these sounds. So here's part 2. It's 11. And the world premiere of the 30-second final composition comes now, and our goal for this was, having gotten to know all of these pieces, to make one continuous 30-second composition that had a shape that somehow came from everything we heard, allowed as many of the different sounds to be heard as possible, and maybe reflected something about what we all felt about this place and being here for all this time. So here is the world premiere of 30, 30, 30. And just for fun, or more than fun, maybe I can ask all the students, the former students who contributed sounds, and the current students who worked on the project, just to stand up. You're the ones who should get the applause. Yeah, let's see. Thank you.